Good morning, everyone. I'm David Talbot, Managing Director, Head of Research here at Red Cloud Securities. Very pleased to host E3 Metals this morning. I'd like to introduce Chris Doornbos. He is President and CEO, and Raymond Chow, CFO of the company. E3 plans to use their direct lithium extraction technology at its large lithium brine project in Alberta. So Chris and Ray, you guys have 10 minutes to discuss, and then we'll have a 5-minute Q&A at the end of the session. So attendees, please feel free to ask any questions using the Q&A link. Okay, go ahead, guys.
Excellent. Thanks, David. Appreciate being here on the platform. I'm just going to share my screen and get this presentation up and underway. So E3 Metals is a lithium development company based in the province of Alberta. This picture here and the pictures behind me are pictures of E3's project site in South Central Alberta. We are working out of an aquifer that was discovered by ExxonMobil in 1947 for oil. It's out of oil now. It's sort of the end of its oil life cycle, and E3 is in the process of repurposing this historic oil-producing aquifer to a lithium brine producer. And the reason for that is that even in the early days of oil in this aquifer, the majority of the fluids in here were lithium-laden brines. That means that we have a very stable environment in which we can work. We've got a strong social license for this. We've got a very skilled workforce here in Alberta, and it really does set us apart in terms of the ability to operate a project that produces lithium in the province. The company is founded on two base sort of advantages that we have. We've developed a proprietary technology called in the DLE space. This is becoming more and more prevalent. You're actually seeing a lot of movement in the space, including Standard Lithium, who's most of you guys would probably know, who've done a lot of the hard yards in getting this technology piloted. And also recently, you've seen probably an announcement that folks like BMW and SK Sumitomo invested in a company called Lilac Solutions, so another technology peer in the space. So DLE is becoming more and more prevalent, and we have developed our own proprietary technology in that space. That is all backed on this massive resource that we have. So the other key advantage for E3 is that we have the 7th largest lithium resource in the world, and probably even bigger than that as we grow it. And I'll show you a slide on that. It is an absolutely incredible lithium brine that is very, very well understood here locally in the province because of the oil and gas development and exploration. And to give you an example, that 4,000 drill holes have been put into our project area alone through its life. So geologically, engineering-wise, very well understood. E3 has developed a project where we'll see us produce battery-quality lithium products from the back of our facility. And this is not the norm in the lithium industry today. Normally, the product gets made at the back of the project site, mine or salar, and shipped to another location to get upgraded or converted. We will provide at the back of our plant better quality products, which means we'll be able to capture the full value of the product we make. We've been very well funded recently. We're moving forward on piloting our technology, which is the big milestone that we'll be talking to you about today. We have a great ESG story, including a very small footprint. And we've been building a very, very good team here in the past, especially in the past 12 months. What that looks like is these fine folks on the slide today. And as David mentioned, Raymond is on the call as well today, our CFO. Recent hires include Jonathan Nielsen, who we brought in from FL Schmidt from the States, who worked in the lithium industry for quite some time building process. And for us, that's the most important part because the development of the technology in terms of R&D is now done, and what we're working on today is commercializing that technology. A little snippet on the lithium market. I won't belabor this too much because I'm sure you hear from other lithium stories, and I know you had Eric talk to you guys just before this. From our perspective, two big, massive things have happened in the past 12 months that have solidified lithium as a market for a product into the future, and a massive market at that. One is that almost every single OEM, automobile manufacturer in the world, has announced they're going either partly or all in on electrification of their vehicle fleet. So electric vehicles are going to be on the market in large numbers. All of that, the other piece to this story is that all of that is based on the lithium ion battery. And in the future, we might see lithium solid state batteries, but the lithium battery is the battery of choice for every single one of these vehicles. And the world just does not produce enough of that product today. And so that gives us, and you've seen this over the past even 6 months, a pretty massive price spike for the commodity. And that is all based on this. And one of the key pieces to note is that although lithium is pretty prevalent, battery quality lithium products, carbonate hydroxide, are not very common. And that is another differentiator for the company. Recently, we put out a PEA. This is about 10 months old now, outlining a $1.1 billion NPV pre-tax, $820 million after tax. That's in US dollars, based on a $14,000 per ton hydroxide price. As I mentioned, it's over 20,000 today, according to the benchmark fast markets folks. One of the key pieces of this is our operating cost per ton. $3,600 US per ton means that we have an extremely healthy margin for this project. So very excited about these numbers. We have an average grade of 75 milligrams per liter, and we're still able to capture this value. And that is all backed on the DLE technology that we've developed. And we have developed that technology specifically for our brines. All of the development work has been on the Duke brine here in the province. This is what that looks like from an operational standpoint. This is the schematic of the project. A couple things to note, the very small size footprint of this. So we've got a couple of well pads that are a couple hundred meters each. And then we have a central processing facility where the brine is pumped through an underground pipeline. So that surface, very minimal surface disturbance. We get to the process facility. We use our DLE technology to extract the lithium from the brine. We put the brine right back into the ground and into the aquifer. So a closed loop system where we don't see exposure of that brine at surface. Once we make our concentrated solution with our DLE, we make either lithium chloride or lithium sulfate. Those are the two precursors to all of the battery quality products you see on the market today, which is carbonate and hydroxide, and probably in the future, lithium metal. So we are working with vendors who develop these process systems to make those products, and so effectively off-the-shelf technology to take our concentrated solution and turn it into a battery product. How this works on a very high level is like a water softener. And what E3 has developed is the little bead that goes in the tank. So we have not, the processing technology that wraps around this is actually quite simple from our perspective because we've engineered the material itself. That R&D we announced in June is now complete. And what we're working on today in the lab, and we announced this in September, is the commissioning of our pilot prototype. And the real key to this prototype is that it gives us all the information we need to design and build a pilot plant. And that is the next big step for E3 Metals. The prototype is incredibly important though, because it outlines to us that we can process this for a long period of time in process environments that mimic real world conditions. And we only test on our own brine from the Leduc aquifer. So all of the results that we demonstrate are on real brine here in the province. This is the real blue sky for E3 Metals, in my opinion, because should we get that DLE technology commercialized and demonstrated in a pilot and then built, and we're aiming for a first sort of size realm of a commercial process of about 20,000 tons lithium hydroxide, this project becomes absolutely massive. So in just the 3 resource areas alone, which are the dark blue shaded areas on this map, we can produce at a rate of about 150,000 tons a year for about 35 years. That's our brine equivalent. So what that means is that we have a huge expansion potential for this project. And maybe if this is successful, a world-class lithium producer based here in Canada, in Alberta. So on the ESG front, I think this is another big differentiator. It's becoming more and more important, especially considering where the products are going. I spent the last 3 weeks in Europe talking to a lot of OEMs and battery manufacturers. And the first question they had for me is, what does our ESG look like? It is incredibly important to them, which means it needs to be incredibly important to us. We will produce, when we get our pre-feasibility study out, an independent third-party life cycle analysis, which will outline the impact of the project. What we're aiming for right now is a reduced carbon emissions project, so very low carbon per ton of hydroxide produced. We also inherently with DLE do not have tailings ponds or open pits. We don't interact with the freshwater aquifer, and we have a very small land footprint. Sorry, my computer's just a bit slow this morning. So you guys are very familiar with the standard lithium. This is just a really quick snapshot of us relative to standard. We are similar in the sense that we have developed a DLE technology. We have a bit higher recovery than they do. Their primary project, they don't own, they only own 30%. We own 100% of our project, and they have put out a PA recently, and you've seen them move again in value to a new high. So the big difference, I think, between standard and E3 at this point in time is time. They're a bit further ahead of us in their development profile, which means that they have been able to achieve a couple more major milestones, and you see that in their valuation today. Looking at where we are today, this lab pilot on the DLE technology is what the company is currently in the process of running, and we'll have announcements out shortly on the progress of that. That leads to the design, construction of a field pilot, and then we put that on the field. While that's happening, we're doing the aquifer management plan, effectively our upgrade to measured and indicated. And the other big project that's going on in the background right now is we're working with vendors to test existing technology to make lithium hydroxide. All of that culminates in a pre-feasibility study we hope to have out by the end of next year or early 2023. And this is our roadmap to commercial. So right now we're sort of sitting at the prototype stage, which is the end of 2021. 2022, the early part, we'll see us move into the pilot. We'll have that running throughout 2022 by the end of 2022, and then that culminates with the pre-feasibility study that will also include the measured and indicated upgrade for the resource. Once those things are completed, we move into the big commercial development. So that's go, no go decision for commercial construction. And we do things like engineer design of the process facility. We go into permitting phase and we start project finance, aiming to have first lithium by 2025 to 2026. All right, thanks, David. That wraps it up.
Okay, thank you very much, Chris. Yeah, you mentioned you have the 7th largest lithium resource. Now, does E3 Metals own its own lithium, Brian, or are you dependent on others that are producing different commodities?
Yeah, it's a good question. We, our permit ground, which is the white outline on this map, is 100% owned by E3. We own all the crown metallic industrial mineral rights in the province, and the lithium falls under that metallic industrial mineral. So those are owned 100% by E3 Metals.
Okay, great. And you're developing your own lithium extraction technology. Now, do you expect the lab prototype finished later this month? And if so, when might we see some results from that?
We're hoping that we'll have results out by sometime in November. So, you know, it takes the machine is being commissioned right now. So we anticipate running the first test very shortly. And then it goes through, you know, a couple of weeks of testing, and then the first results get sent in for analysis, and then we interpret and send the results out to the public. So mid-November, I would expect something on the results of that work. So not very long from now at all.
Sure, sure. And do you see any opportunity to start production before 2025, given current market demand?
Yes, I mean, it is possible. When you look at the hurdles to getting into production, the faster we can get this pilot completed, which is what is pretty much all guns blazing right now on the pilot. And we've staffed up. We've got 16 full-time people. We're going to be adding to that shortly. Most of those staff are working on getting the pilot out the door or on the DLE technology itself and producing that, because we do make it ourselves. So right. If we can get that done sooner than later, which is one of the initiatives we have, which is to try to find a vendor that makes the technology so we don't have to build it ourselves. So maybe we can rent a unit or find one that's already built. That saves an extremely large amount of time. And that would then push the whole schedule forward, as would a bunch of other things that we're working on. So if we can get it out sooner, we absolutely will. But we want to make sure that we're also being very thoughtful on the progress steps and making sure that we're comfortable with the success that we've had before we move to the next.
Okay. And this process is scalable? How quickly could you get from, let's say, 20,000 to 40,000 tons a year?
Yeah, the benefit of the process flow sheet that we outlined in the PA is that it's modular. So instead of building a machine bigger to produce more, and this is not just for the 20 to 40,000, but also to get to 20,000 tons, the pilot will not be that much smaller than one module of DLE processing equipment in the commercial plant. And that makes it a lot simpler and a lot lower risk to scale. So instead of building a giant machine, very complicated, we build lots of little machines. And so in that light, if we want to expand again from 20 to say 40,000 or 50,000, we're just building more of the same equipment. So that risk becomes very low. We make a highly concentrated solution with this technology, which opens up a bit of a hub and spoke model. So we can have a brine production facility that makes the concentrate, and we can use the main process facility that's already been built to produce the hydroxide and expand that there, which also simplifies the scale and the development to grow production.
Perfect. Okay, got to stop it there. So Chris, thank you very much. Thank you everyone, and Raid for joining us. Up next, we have GoviX Uranium.
Great, thanks for having me.